One. It's Paul Hogan. Welcome to the show. And we were talking offline just a second ago. You're in California now, but you're from Silver Spring. Uh,
Yes.
Still, former Marylander, Silver
Former
Spring for life.
Marylander. It's the age old battle. I tell people I'm from DC and they go, where? I
Yeah.
go, Silver Spring. They go, well, I'm like, okay. And
Well,
then I say I'm from Maryland and they go, like, Baltimore. I'm like, no, Silver Spring. They go, so DC. So uh
exactly. I always tell
um
people. DMV, DC, Maryland,
DM,
Virginia area, because
DMV. Exactly. But
being a
that's
freelancer,
that was
huh?
a term that came up after I left. So I had friends who
Yeah.
were living there, and they're like, "Oh, the DMV." I'm like, well, "You getting your driver's license?" And they're like, "Oh, no, no,
Right.
it's the DC, Maryland, Virginia." But yeah, I grew up there. Went to college there. I moved away in 2001, and yeah,
Where'd you
and
go to
my dad,
college?
American University. So that was
Okay.
in DC proper. Yeah, my dad was in the Navy, so we moved around a little bit as a kid, and then stuck there. And he was at the what is now, it was Bethesda Naval. Now it's Walter Reed, as we have all been hearing about. But like,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and so he was in the Navy, and then I grew up there, and originally born in California, but that was the Navy thing, so bounced back and forth, and then got the hell out and
Yeah.
then came to LA, and yeah, and moved around a little bit more, and then now I'm here. I don't think I'm going anywhere, which is famous last words. um
Well, hey, I took a look at your reel. A lot of big time commercial work and some looks like some awesome commercials, awesome music videos, and and I might have seen some clips of some indie films you directed.
yeah, I did. There's shorts and stuff like that, a couple clips. I've done a couple TV series as well. I did a TV series for True TV, which that was a fun one. That was like an infotainment. um every episode we had hosts, and every episode we were doing sketches, we were doing interviews, we were doing like information bits, and so it was really, and I think we had like a week off in the middle where we'd actually moved ahead of the writers, but like I think we shot for like 70 days straight or something like that. It was a blast though. But it was a great thing where we were bouncing back and forth between, in a day I'd have to go interview somebody on the street, film a couple comedy sketches, and then like interview, like have our hosts sit in a room, and it was like just bouncing back and forth, which was great. Just kept me on my toes. And then I did a scripted anthology series for Playboy. And so that was something I wrote. I wrote and directed 8 episodes in a month. So it was fast. We had one day to shoot 25-page episode script, and it was actual script. It wasn't just making out and stuff like that. It was like actual story. But I was like, if I can keep it to one location, just a couple talent, I think we can pull this off. So done that. And then little bits. I also have a history in advertising, so that's sort of what got me. I've always wanted to direct, but I had to take a roundabout path to that, where I had to I basically left Los Angeles, was freelancing on my own, doing editorial. I do motion graphics and motion design and illustration and all that stuff as well. And then I did these viral fake trailers for movies, and those got attention and got press. And that actually ended up getting me hired by an ad agency, where they were like, hey, we need somebody who knows how to think digitally. Like, they're like, okay, we'll make a commercial, we'll spend $1 billion on it and go, it's going to be 2 months. And we're like, no, 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 you need, your clients are going to need somebody to have something on Instagram like tomorrow based on something that happened today. So you got to learn how to do that. So they brought my friend and I in as partners to sort of spearhead this production department, and that got me directing more, and then directing the commercials and all that stuff. And then we opened up a little boutique agency, and then that got shut down. And then I was like, I've been freelancing for 6 years. Everything from commercials to creative directing work for ad agencies to illustrate. I mean, I really, in the past and we can talk about this, but in the past 2 weeks, I've like directed a little video. I've done illustration logo design for a project that Tim Robbins is putting out. Like today I was late to you. I was auditioning, for a commercial. So it's like,
so you're also an actor.
I may be if these things pan out. So I used to act when I was way, in high school and college and stuff like that. And I've been in a few little things that I've done just out of necessity, but I've never pursued that. But we have very good friends who we've been sort of potted up with this during the quarantine. And the wife, she's an actor, and he acts sometimes, but he has a regular job. So and I have kids, and what all of the agencies and the production companies are looking for now are people they don't have to worry about, essentially. So they say, if you've been living together, if you are potted up, if you're close, audition. So like
bring your dog too. If your dog,
exactly. So if they can know that they don't have to worry about our communal health, and B, that we're going to freak out when like there's somebody there that we have to sit at a dinner table with or in a car with, that's a lot easier for them. And there's a weird little relaxed attitude between everybody that's just sort of naturally there between friends.
And I think it alleviates a lot of the COVID compliance officers' duties.
It does, although it's still a nightmare.
It's still a nightmare. I just got certified as one, so just going through
that's amazing.
Yeah, and so just knowing, I mean, I'm an experienced AD, production coordinator, production manager, directed a lot of ultra indie stuff, a lot of a bunch of local artists, music videos, and things of that nature. Yeah. So, but I've AD'd a lot of pretty significant projects in the last 10 years, and now having gone through that COVID compliance, that CCO stuff, I can see why. Like, man, all right, couples with dogs and kids, only those groups, and then because it also alleviates maybe some budgetary requirements, say quarantining them before and after.
Yep.
Taking tests before, like you can still give them tests, but then they're giving you like these options, like you can go to Minute Clinic and get tested. We'll throw you an extra $100 bump, but that extra $100 bump alleviates them from like thousands of dollars of bumps.
Well, I've been putting together a budget for a pilot right now for something that I'm working on, and it's funny because it's a docuseries, and we're like, okay, we're going to have to come to the DC area to Maryland to interview a bunch of people soon. And we're like, look at airfare. It's amazing. It's like $100 to fly from LA to Dulles or BWI right now. But then immediately one of the producers was like, doesn't matter because all of that is going to get eaten up by COVID tests. And we're like, shoot, but it's the world we're in. And I think it's interesting because when I started doing productions, we were so used to being digital and a small footprint that we were able to save money, which clients liked. And now that's sort of even more of a necessity. I mean, there were times I'd get on for a broadcast commercial, which was always fun, but it would take 3 times as long to film something, and we'd have 2 to 3 times as many people there. We'd have a client that was in, a video village outside, and I would tell, and it got to the point where I got tired of making the AD bounce back and forth. Like, okay, is that good? Is that, then run back into the wing stop or whatever. Oh, it's okay. That's good. Maybe you can move. And it got to the point where I just would say, bring the client in. This is going to be a lot easier. And ad agencies get finicky with that because they like to control everything. Yeah. Clients love it because they feel involved. So but having a smaller crew, I'm very used to. I think it's really about having what is absolutely necessary. There's a lot of fat on sets. There's a lot of people standing around that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
I know I don't always think the more the merrier. You know, throwing money at a problem, throwing people at a problem isn't the best. I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they were asking me what do I think the future of production is? Is it animation right now? Is it, you know, I said I think that for the places that can afford it, you know, and for you, I would buy stock in the Unreal Engine. Like I look at what they're doing with The Mandalorian, which was just a technical, and I've never shot like that, but like, and I can only imagine, but to think about how you can accomplish just about anything in a round little room with anywhere between like 5 and 20 people in what would normally you'd have to control city blocks or whatever. Like, why would they not switch over to that if they could? I mean,
and I've been experimenting with the Unreal. I just installed it on a computer that can barely handle it, and I'm going to try to experiment, and I'm going to try to experiment and see what I can do. And we can talk about some of these projects, but that I had finally cut back in April when there was nothing else to do. But like, you hit the nail on the head. It's not only animation. It's going to be, you know, with these projects, I did a casting notice for voiceover actors. And what I did was, okay, you know, it's for credit only. If I make a buck off YouTube, you'll get a percentage, and hopefully this thing skyrockets.
Yeah.
And make a shit ton of money on YouTube. And I'm all about profit sharing, you know, points for my voice actors, points for my on-screen talent, yada, yada, yada. But I did, and this was we shot and recorded way before COVID. And I put out a casting notice looking for voiceover actors, and I booked about 10 of them. And it's 2 different series, probably 12 to 15 episodes per series. And I gave each one 5 scripts. Knock it out. You got about a month or 2. Just, you know, do your best and knock it out. Every single one did a fantastic job. 10 different voiceover actors. And then they sent me an MP3. They got their own home studio, and they emailed me an MP3. And that was it. Never saw them in person. Talked to them a lot. Talked to them on the phone a couple of times. A lot of texts, a lot of emails. Chatted them up, and then sent them the thing. I said, hey, spam it out there. Share it out there. Yeah. But now it's like, not only is it that voiceover thing, there's so much content out there that, you know, I could stand in front of a white wall and film it, throw that into the Unreal, have it track it, do all my movements, and I could turn myself into an alien, into a monster, into a zombie, whatever. Have voiceover actors, just that, and that's it.
The content thing's interesting as well, because there's so much that's needed, and like that content train was just rolling faster and faster and faster, and then COVID just threw a big old boulder on the tracks, you know, because everyone got so used to producing, expecting all this stuff. And it was kind of funny the first month where like you had all the celebrities and the brands were like, what do we do? Just throw anything on there, you know? And now they're being a little bit more strategic about it. But it's tough because we're so used to having that constantly. You know, I don't know if the well's running dry yet. You know, there's stuff that we can do, obviously, that's smaller, that little video things. But I know with series, they have to get back. They have to start up again. Yeah. But again, how do you do that safely? And it's like, you saw what happened with the Batman movie. It's like the one guy gets it and it shuts down everything.
and the lead got it.
And the lead got it. Yeah.
Robert Pattinson. Yeah. President Trump got it.
Yeah. Well, he didn't shut anything down. I like that Batman gets it, and they're like, let's calm down. Let's keep everybody safe. Batman, fictional character who wears a mask, and you know, the president does it, and it's like stronger than ever. I'm like, you're not, but okay. But yeah, I mean, everybody has to kind of be mindful of the other people in their life and in their productions and all that stuff. And then once you are, I think people will be safer. They're not going to be totally safe, but it'll be better. But yeah, I mean, you have to be mindful of that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back to, like you were saying, now they're casting families, they're casting couples with children and dogs and that sort of thing. And so, I mean, I'm the magic man when it comes to hacking productions, like
Yeah.
editing around problems.
Yeah.
And so how, oh man, but they're not good actors. They're okay actors. Well, hell, I mean, you can just shoot them MOS,
Yeah.
super slow-mo, them chuckling,
Yeah.
them laughing, them teasing, them playing with the kid and the kid giggling,
Yeah.
and then a voiceover actor. And
And you got
and it
Yep.
could still be 1/10 of your usual commercial budget. And
Yeah.
you just had lessened COVID concerns, lessened film crew, you know, skeleton crew, skeleton
Yeah.
cast, and like you said, it's these couples that need to bring their own kid and dog.
Yeah.
And yeah, I see a lot of those castings even around here.
Yeah.
In the DMV, a lot of the PSAs, the commercials that they shoot. You know, some of the what else? They have a lot of films. They're doing a lot of films.
So what? Yeah. So what? How is it affected it out there? I know in LA it's starting to ramp back up, but it's been dead. You know, is it a little bit better there? Or?
It sucks, man. Because okay, so there was a big company in the area that did those crime shows, and Discovery left. Silver Spring, and I think Discovery relocated. I think they still have the small warehouse in Silver Spring, but the big headquarters left. So
I was so pissed when they built that because they fucked up Tasty Diner.
I remember that. I remember that.
It was the best. Sorry.
No, it's good point. Good point. But no, like, so since they left, there was two big production companies, and the two that stayed, Storyhouse, I think it's Storyhouse and Widenet stayed, and they still produce those crime those crime shows, those ID crime shows, you know?
Yeah.
And I must have played a detective or a cop in 40 different episodes of 40 different series. But Richmond was really starting to blow up on a lot of period stuff.
Interesting.
They have so much real estate out there, and I think they wanted to build a micro Atlanta. You know,
Gotcha.
Atlanta started off, Atlanta and New Mexico started off building micro, and Louisiana started off building micro LAs.
Yeah.
Studio lots. And now Atlanta's huge.
Yeah.
I think New Mexico is pretty big now. And I know Louisiana's still kind of growing, but Richmond really wanted to like kick off with all this real estate.
Yeah.
There was The Good Lord Bird just came out on Showtime with Ethan Hawke. And that was a Richmond, Virginia production.
Interesting.
And then there was
are they putting the tax breaks out on that stuff, or are they just
I don't
have the resources?
I don't know the specifics on like the tax breaks. I know Baltimore stopped, and that's why Veep left, and for a number of reasons, House of Cards slowed down and then wrapped for a number of reasons.
I remember watching the first season of House of Cards, and people were like, oh, it's DC. I watched the first. I was like, that's not DC. I was like, that's Baltimore. I know they look. I was like, that's Baltimore.
Same with Veep.
Yeah,
Veep was shot in Baltimore, and they would just drive down the street for the exteriors. But I mean, still for me, you know, like that opportunity was there. But what pisses me off is they hire outside folks. They put them up in hotels for months, and I'm like, bro, you've got experienced film professionals out here that are doing a lot, that have done a lot of industrials, a lot of corporates, a lot of commercials, PSAs.
I'll tell you, I mean, just from my experience, I'll tell you why that is, and it's not a right or wrong thing. And we, like, when I do go places, I try to hire local when possible. But it is, you know, they say like it's all about who you know, and it's also like, and I'm sure even for you, if I said to you, hey, I need a DP, and you go, I got a great guy, and I go, yeah, but you got to go get him from this town. You would use them if you had to, but there's that person that you work with that you trust, you know what I mean? And that's sort of a little bit, now obviously when you're getting into like, you know, the third or fourth like tier grips and electricians and stuff like that. But that, I know for me, I have a core group of people that I just have a quick vernacular with. And so I'm sure there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, you should use local as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean,
also, and you don't have to put people up. You know,
but these are not DPs. DP and up, I get that.
Yeah.
Shit, you know, like an art director, a wardrobe and hair and makeup. I get that. Fly them out. I've worked with these guys for 10 years, but like a PA.
PAs, no.
PAs from New York working on House of Cards in right outside Baltimore County, or what was that? Hartford County? It was either Hartford or Baltimore
Yeah.
County at
It's
at their whole lot. And I'm
it's
like,
because they know they can abuse the shit out of the people
probably.
from they know, like, I know office PAs and stuff like that are just essentially slaves that I think if I worked there, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do this. Like, it's that horrible treatment of the lower tier people that I'm sure they're counting on. But at the same time, like, there's no reason somebody in Georgia or Maryland can't get abused. But yeah, I mean, but no, I mean, it's interesting because I'm trying, I'm in the stages of pitching a series that is true story set in the DC area. And that's the discussion is, for me, I'm like, I want to shoot it there. For me, very few places look like that area. Now I know I'm picky, but like, it's those little things and that little flavor. I know there's times where I'd watch Stranger Things and they're like in those woods and stuff. I'm like, it does. I know it's not set there, but I'm like, that kind of looks a little bit like suburban Maryland, but like with the hills and the tree, but like very, very few times, it's not something you can recreate in Los Angeles, at least for exteriors. There's air quality. There's all that stuff is different. So that's one of the things we're working on is like, do we shoot in Maryland? Do we try to replicate it in Georgia and all that stuff? But yeah, it's we're trying to do a scripted and unscripted series. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, we want it, so bring it.
Yeah. No, I want to bring it there. And one of the people who it's about, like, he's always like, yes, bring it here. So yeah, it's, and of course I'd love, my parents moved out of DC and they live in Frederick now. So it's like, they'd be happy if I was in town for a few months.
Hell yeah, man. Hell
yeah.
Well, I mean, like I was saying, yeah, the COVID, I mean, Richmond was really starting to blow up with some projects, some things, ended, and and then COVID hit, and I think everything just went to a complete halt. But there's a Liquid Talent. They used to book me on a billion different things, or tried to anyway. Maybe I wasn't a perfect fit, but they always reached out to me like, hey, we got casting openings and this, that, and the other. And I'm still seeing a lot of castings, and a lot of it now is that, hey, we know you're an experienced actor, but do you have a wife and a kid and a dog you can bring?
Yeah,
and that sort of deal. And I mentioned it to the wife, and she's like, no, I don't want to go out yet. And I'm like, okay. So, and I kind of put that stipulation on myself as well. Except for maybe being a compliance officer, because then I know I'll be super strict. I know I'll be safe because I'm gonna make sure I'm going to make sure everything's safe, but I won't fly anywhere. So it's got to be a set that I'm willing to drive, that I can drive to. Will they cover that drive gas wise and then put me up, or, if it's local, but then acting, see, actors are never on set the full day, like, crew is.
Yeah. No,
so then maybe acting, if it's like 20 miles less radius or something, like all these crazy stipulations, because I mean, I've been doing pretty well, teleworking and doing virtual live streaming stuff here at the home studio office basement, broadcast center. But
the broadcast center. Yeah, no, go big.
Yep. So I have to unfortunately put those stipulations on myself, but that's the discipline, and that's the discipline to push myself further on this, and to, like, prep things and write things and outline things for when we get that vaccine. And then it's like, Paul, here's some scripts, man, let's make them. Or, and start pushing these things out. And it's just like that. And that's really, it's either this virtual live stream broadcast center, or it's just me writing and prepping. Writing and prepping.
Do you have kids?
Well, we have a 6-month-old.
Okay.
So that's like the triple priority is that I can't bring it back to them.
It's 6 months, so they're not in school, so you don't have to worry about that.
but good point. But the wife's the 3rd grade teacher, so she's up there Zoom all day.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's, I mean, for me, I've got like, it's with the school, my days go, and then begin at 3:30, and then go again. but yeah, it's I mean, it's challenging trying to keep yourself writing, keep yourself focused, and then just the general stress of all of this is difficult on the creative process, to just remove everything that's happening, no matter your politics or anything. Like, just the constant barrage of information that we're all getting is tough for anybody, you know? And so it's tough to like buckle down and say, okay, I'm going to focus on this, and then not write something that's about politics or disease or, you know, anything like that. But yeah, it's a very challenging time. I think, and I'm curious, like even in Los Angeles, I'm curious. I know so many people who are moving out, moving to Texas, moving to Georgia, stuff like that. So I'm curious what this town will look like. And if by necessity, they're going to have to go to a Richmond or to a Baltimore or to a Georgia, because there's like people who are not crazy there.
Well, listen, there's people that are hungry. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that there's a lot of like art houses, and there's a lot of stage, and there's a lot of you know, I don't know how to word it. It's not huge Hollywood things, but it's like these small passionate things that I hope they wouldn't run wild and ruin an opportunity. But you know, if some big money came in and said, hey, let's start knocking out, you know, X, Y, and Z here in Richmond,
I don't think they're going to be able to anytime soon. I think one benefit of this is, and again, I freaking love Avengers movie. I love action, big, huge stuff. It's like, and with the kids, it's like almost what I like. I'm sad by it, but like, I'm worried that the last two movies I'll have ever seen in the theater are Bad Boys 3, which was terrible, and Sonic, which was, you know, okay. but I'm like, were those my last cinematic experiences? But I think, as much as I love those things, I think by necessity, we're going to have smarter, smaller, more intimate, personal, actual stories. They will not be able to rely on as much spectacle, I think, you know. And again, going back to something like Mandalorian, very personal show by the nature of what they can do in that sort of theater in the round and stuff like that. And I think, I think it's a very interesting opportunity for storytellers to do those small stories, to do those personal things, little romances, you know. We're going to see a lot of haunted house stories, I'm sure, but like, you know, people stuck in one place or another, little bottle episode type things. But I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to force people to reevaluate what storytelling is, and not just spectacle, as much as I adore spectacle. Like, you know,
I mean, take a look at Mandalorian. I mean, that brand speaks to you. Huge, endless galaxies, endless planets, endless vast sci-fi, huge spaceships, lasers, aliens, all sorts of stuff. But the way they pulled it off was so micro, and they utilized an expensive, in-depth, complicated software to make things just so much more streamlined and actually cheaper in the back end.
In the back end of it, although it's shockingly expensive, which
shockingly expensive.
Yeah, it was. I think there was a lot of R&D in that show, because somebody told me what that show cost. I was like, I nearly jumped out of my seat. But it just, because I'm like, there's no sense. But like but I think I think with something like that, just even in terms of Star Wars, you know, I mean, you look at it like that brand, that world, that universe, the bigger it got, the crazier it got, the worse it got. You know, when it was about a farm boy going off, that's what everybody loved. They like the farm boy going off into space.
Yep.
You know, and that's like, people like characters. People really need to hold on to that stuff. So I think this is where we're going to see, hopefully a return to that. And again, it's the same thing with a lot of animation. It's about those characters. You gotta love the characters on those shows. Like,
I mean, with the prequel, like you said, with the prequel trilogy, they just went way overboard with at that time big technology, but it was just green screen and CGI on top of CGI, and it just turned into like a live action video game.
Yeah.
Now, and then fast forward to the Mandalorian, they figured out Unreal Engine on LED screens, So, like you said, and I'll agree, it was probably like, I don't know, $10 million studio, 10,
Yeah.
10 or I think it was $20 million set, 20 million.
I think the figure I heard per episode was 15 million, which
Jeez. Okay.
is a lot. Is a lot, like considering a couple of those episodes were just them on one spaceship, but like, but still, like but they had to build all of that. And against once you have productions where they can just have it, and there's good,
it's turnkey.
There's going to be companies, I'm sure right now, if they're not, I should start one, who's scanning DC, who's scanning New York, who's scanning Los Angeles, inputting that into the Unreal Engine. So you say, oh, you need to be on, Fairfax and Melrose. Great. Do. And boom. And we're there. Oh, we need to switch out that building, that billboard. We can do that. And you're there, Yeah. And so they're not there yet. That I think is probably 4 or 5 years out where like it's that. But again, I think the nice thing about that technology is it still places limitations. I think the problem with green screen sometimes it's used magnificently, I think the problem is there's no limitations. People say they can do whatever they want and do whatever they want. So they just throw, it's the, what I call the Steven Spielberg problem, on Jaws, which is a fantastic movie. He had to think about what he was doing. And yeah, I'm so arrogant. I'm going to complain about Spielberg, but he had to think about what he was doing and be creative to solve the problem of a shark that he couldn't just constantly show. And that made it better versus something like War of the Worlds, which is still good, but it's like, show them whatever you want. Have the aliens show up in the first 5 minutes and constantly be there. And it's not as personal because you're always looking over here and all that stuff. So I think something like that technology places limitations on people because they know it still has to show up behind the actor and they can't just replace it. They can, but it's with rotoscoping, but like, if they really need to, but yeah.
Well, the beauty with Jaws, and it was such a happy accident, is that shark, that mechanical shark, wouldn't work. And so he said, you know what, forget it. We'll save it to the end. Fix this shark. You got like a month to fix this shark.
Yeah.
And he chose that Hitchcockian route.
Yep.
Just the liquid blood, the music, creative camera angles,
yep.
and actors like just sinking themselves, and that whole Hitchcockian kind of atmosphere where you don't see the shark. That's even more horrifying.
Yeah.
Until that great Moby Dick moment at the end, and that was like the epicness where you finally see it.
I'm seeing if I have one. I'm not a huge Funko guy. I don't know if it's in here. It must be downstairs. I have like one or two. I have Iron Maiden one, and then I have a little like that shot. My favorite shot in almost any film is him popping up, like that look when the shark comes and he's got the cigarette hanging out. Yeah, it's but yeah, we'll see what happens. I think.
And again, it's about these happy accidents. That famous line, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Was something that the crew and the actors kept saying on set the entire shoot.
Really?
Because the whole cast, the whole crew, and the gear being on this boat, they kept saying, we're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a bigger boat. And
I did not know that.
And so Roy Scheider threw it in. He was supposed to say something else. He was supposed to say like, holy shit, the shark's here or something like that.
Yeah.
And he just spat that out. And everybody loved it, and it worked.
That's amazing.
But apparently that was something they were saying by the time they got on the boat with the whole crew for that second half of the movie. That's what everybody kept complaining about during the shoot. We should have gotten a bigger boat. We're going to need a bigger boat. We should have gotten a bigger boat, something like that. And so that's why he said, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Amazing.
But it worked because that's a big ass shark, right? So, but, yeah, I mean, it's those happy accidents that Spielberg forgot and Lucas forgot. I mean, look at THX.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's happy accidents and it's problem solving.
Yeah.
Acknowledging there's a problem versus, the joke used to be a joke. We'll fix it in post. Now it is the norm. Like, don't worry about anything that happens here. We can fix it later. And it's like when you might have to fix something on set, you say, is there a better way to do this? Is there a smarter way to do this to get this done to accomplish this? And you fix it there versus going, oh crap. Okay, well, yeah, screw it. We'll put a whole bunch of aliens in here, and you know, we'll move her over 3 feet, and yeah. So
We'll have her. We'll just have her. We'll just have her ADR the whole movie. And I'm like,
exactly.
I bet you won't.
We'll just check her whole face.
I bet you won't have her to ADR it. What if she gets booked and she's like, I'm not coming back for that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's try to fix
Superman's
this.
mustache, you know.
Superman's mustache, fix it in post. You know, there was a scenes, you know, this director, I was ADing this featurette, and this director wanted this whole lavish, crazy fight scene. And I said, you know, we're a minute overtime. We're an hour overtime right now.
Yeah.
No, we got to simplify it. And I broke it down to 2 shots. And I said, listen, we do 3 shots actually. You know, we do this, and then she does this. Actually 4 shots. So, you know, they're fighting. She pushes him off. Then he falls down the steps. We just throw this pad on the steps. He falls down the steps, and then she stares down at the top of the steps.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, fine, whatever. He got mad at me later. He goes, you're trying to direct my film. I'm like, dude, when this film comes out, it's not going to say co-directed by me.
No,
you're still going to get the writer director credit.
Yeah.
Let your team, but you got to think outside the box, because we can spend 5 hours on this and it's going to go terribly wrong. I've AD'd this scene.
Yeah.
I've shot this scene.
Yeah.
A bunch of times already.
Yeah.
Trust me when I'm doing this, but let me be an AD.
Yeah.
Let me assist you.
Gotta trust your ADs.
And
ADs are invaluable.
But listen, what if I'm co-directing, as you say, but really I'm ADing. I'm assistant directing this whole film. When the film hits the theaters, when the film's being film screened, when the film's being played on YouTube, at the beginning, at the end, it's only going to say written and directed by
you,
not me.
Yeah.
It might say co-produced, and it might say assistant director, and it might say UPM, but it's not. I'm not going to get credit as director. You are.
Directing is knowing when to listen to other people.
Yep.
It really, like you know, that's directing. Even when I first came out to LA, I was working on a talk show, and my showrunner, like I was a production coordinator. So we were filming, and we'd have our hosts, and we'd set up the whole week we'd be producing, okay, what guests are we getting? What segments are we doing? And then I remember, like, as I kind of got bumped up from PA to production coordinator, it was the day of one of the shoots. And I said to him, well, so what do I have to do today? You know? And he looked at me, he said, if you're busy today, you didn't do your job, you know? And that's sort of, and he also told me one time, he said, if we're working overtime on this, we're also not doing our job, but like, cause it's a stupid show. But I held that and it stuck with me, where it's obviously it's a lot of decision-making moment of when I'm shooting, I'm busy as hell. I'm constantly talking to people, constantly making decisions. But a lot of that starts the moment I'm handed a script, the moment I'm handed a schedule, the moment I'm handed the idea and all that stuff. You start directing then, and you're
like
talking
talking
to your AD, your costume department, props, wardrobe, G&E, DP, all that. It's if you're scrambling and freaking out the day you're shooting, you've screwed up. You really have, and it's about preparation. It's putting the last little, pieces of tape on any final holes, and that's it. Like, and things go wrong, obviously, but like, if you're not prepared, you're just not doing your job. And again, that's why an AD is great, because I hate breaking down a day, like like the shoot down. Like I could sit with them and say, I need these shots, and all that, and the great ADs that I've worked with go, I got this. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go tell the DP what colors things need to be.
Yeah, I mean, as an AD, I have a blank shot list, and it's your cookie color shot list.
Yeah.
I won't shot list a film. I'm going to leave that up to the director and a DP.
Yeah.
You're going to shot list this.
Yeah.
But obviously me as an AD, I take the script, I do the scene breakdowns, and then from the scene breakdowns, make my schedule.
Yeah.
And there's programs that even simplify that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Movie Magic, Movie Magic scheduling, movie.
Yeah.
So, you do all that, and then it's like boom, boom, boom schedule, and then it's like boom, boom, boom this, and then your scene numbers. And so then if I get that shot list from them, that's their direct. They already directed 85% of the film.
Yeah,
honestly. And if you rehearsed your actors before, and your actors are familiar with the script, and they have their side, and now day of they get their sides.
Yeah,
and I got my shot list. And this is really simplifying. This is oversimplifying it maybe, but it's all that matters is hitting record and saying action.
Yep.
All this is because all that should have been prepped. And I've had directors who were like, shit, we didn't shot list this. I'm like, okay, no problem. Here's this brink, wide, medium, close, over the shoulder, moving on.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, dude, I'm sorry, not happening. I mean, you kind of biff the day. We're gonna make it happen. You're gonna get the day in the can. But because and I've mentioned this on this podcast 1,000 times already. What's most important is the film.
Yeah.
And you need to have a finished film. To have a film, you need to have a film cut, edited, and put in theaters to have a film. And listen, I mean, shit happens. So like, if you biff the day, we're still gonna make our day. We're still gonna, get what needs to be gotten. And 98% of films, production wise, are wide, medium, close, over the shoulder, two shot. Yeah. And then some icing on the cake. You want to get that. You want to get that dolly. You want to get that jube. Yeah. Okay. Save that to last. That's gonna be our wish list shit. So
but I do find young, and I always crow about this. And I'm not that old, but like I find younger people who grew up digital. They are used to getting on a set, and shooting is not a premium for them. They know they can turn on a camera, a phone, a digital camera, DSLR, an Alexa, whatever it is, and just shoot and fix it in post. Make it in post, which is great. You can do that. But I learned and was taught and was raised on, you have this videotape, that costs you money. You have this film, that costs you money. You have to process it, that costs you money. You can't just roll and so again, when you get to set, you damn sure know what you're doing, and plan that out. And its crews are always happy. Like many different crews have come to me at the end of the day and said, wow, that was really easy. Like you actually knew what you wanted to shoot. I'm like, yeah, I know. But there's a lot of people who just are like, no, we're just going to roll. We're going to roll on this and we're going to roll on that. And then I'll figure it out later. I'm like, nah. And actors don't like that. I remember seeing Samuel L. Jackson was talking about that, where he drives him crazy when he'll get into a room and the guy's like, it's funny listening to him talk about it. He's talking about like how directors will get like, I'm going to get a close-up ECU. I'm going to get over here, get over this. And he's like, why do you need all that? He's like, how many times are you gonna make me do this? And so I think there's something to be said about just know what you know. On one show we were working on, we called it my DP, John and I would always talk about it. Sicario, there's a scene where I think it was Deakins was on that, where Villeneuve and Deakins were, and there's like a scene where the guys are like walking over the hill and it's in the sunset or whatever. And I think he told him, he said, don't let me get coverage on this and he said, why? He said, because I want to make sure I use this. So he sort of forced his hand, not going and getting like the shot of them, and it's like, and so we would have times where we were like, let's Sicario this. let's make sure we get like, we're going to use this. I know the lighting's weird. I know but it looks great, and trust that it'll work. And
you bring up a great, director's trick, because Hitchcock was guilty of that in every one of his films.
Yeah.
He edited it in his mind beforehand. Mm-hmm. He would not even shoot a full scene. He would call cut between half of a sentence, and then he would call action, mid-sentence, and then they would continue that scene. And the editor was like, this son of a bitch did it to me again. Because Hitchcock knew exactly how he wanted to edit it. But coming to America, he had to deal with editors unions. He had to deal with studios, editors unions. He was like a knight over in England. But here he wanted to make films for the American audience, for a whole slew of other reasons, in that regard.
Yeah.
But he knew how to work the American system. And he said, hey, no problem.
Yeah.
I have to have an editor. I can't edit it myself and I can't shoot it myself. No problem.
Yeah.
All right, action, cut. What? No, just move it, action, cut. And then the editor's like, well, I have to cut here and I have to cut here and I have to cut here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's and like you call it the Sicario, like that. Hitchcock did that back in the 40s.
Yeah.
Because, and now, I mean, we're given a lot more, way more artistic freedom, believe it or not. Still you have studio interference, and you have contracts with, like, director's final cut or whatever the case, but still there's a lot of artistic freedom here where, a director can edit, or, maybe the DP can edit, or whatever. Or there's just, like, all these different takes and coverages, and I get that coverage kind of mentality. There's and it's funny you mentioned that, like, just roll. We'll see what happens. Just roll. And there's a web series I do where I simplified it so much on purpose. It's just like those ID crime shows.
Yeah.
But one takes place in the Marvel universe. One takes place in the DC universe. It's basically crime show episodes about the villains, the supervillains. But
check that out.
I've been on I'll be happy to send you links, but I've been on those productions. I see how simple those shoots are. It just dawned on me, like, here's something we could pull off, like a web series, YouTube web series. Maybe it can grow into something else.
Yeah.
Especially with the lack of content these days. Who knows? DC Universe or Disney Plus. I would love to reach out to them.
Yeah.
And have them pick it up from me. I need the work. So
they need the content.
and they need the content. And they need the content. But the simplest things is, you got three different analysts, the detectives or the psychologists or these crime analysts or whatever, sitting in front of green screen talking about them.
Yeah.
And then you've got archive footage, archive photos, the 911 calls, whatever. And then you have the dramatic reenactments. So simple enough. I've got all the scripts. Just sit here and read off a teleprompter. And then what we did for a while was we went to Comic-Cons, and I would just go up to different cosplayers. I would go up to every single cosplayer, say, hey, give me some crazy action shots. I love it. Here's my card, trade information. And I had no shot list. I would just go to these Comic-Cons and just shoot everybody.
Yeah.
And then I would go back with the footage, put tags in it. And so when it comes to, like, this episode, I need a Daredevil and a Captain America and a Red Skull. And I would look up those tags, and holy shit, I actually got some of that footage.
Brilliant.
Add some bizarre effects, because I see how some of these shows are, like, I acted in them, and then I can't even see me in it. I can see
they mess with it, and it's all like, it's always with strobe effect. I don't know what it is with the strobe effect.
Well, that's like a client, that might be ID's choice, or that might be the client's choice. But come to find out, the reason why they do that a lot. So there was an episode I played a guy who had two different girlfriends. One killed the other one, and they suspected my character, but it turned out to be her. He was kind of at fault because he was kind of like a womanizer and kind of playing them both. So they shot all these scenes, and they had me memorize some basic lines, and this detective was talking to me. The reason why they obscure it so much, they put, like, these blur effects. I'm blurry, but my background's clear, and then they might do some, like, bizarre over the shoulder, and they're really kind of focusing just on the detective. They're kind of focusing on my hands kind of jittery. It's because, believe it or not, there's so many legal issues that the case might still be open. So they can't exactly show me saying something based on an outline or a script, based on a cop's testimony, or based on a victim's family members.
Yeah.
Hearsay. They interviewed that person, and that person signs a bunch of stuff, and that person legally can say that
because
but then because it's their word. But the production can only show so much or say so much.
Interesting.
And so that's why there's, I mean, and then there's episodes I'm in. It was clear as day. Me and my brother were killing our half brother, and it was clear as day. We had full blown dialogue, full blown scenes. We're covered with blood. We're beating somebody to death. We're bullying him. We're discussing murdering him with a third and fourth person.
Yeah.
Each episode, each production, each case is different. And
it's funny when I was in school, we at AU, we would do stuff with Discovery and have like internships, and then NBC over there on Nebraska or whatever it is, the local channel. And they would do a lot of America's Most Wanted, I think it was, over there. And we learned that a lot of times the actors would get arrested, that there were times where the actors would be, especially for America's Most Wanted, because they're still wanted. So the guy who was like you playing like the murderer, the guy who killed his wife or the child or whatever, they'd be at 7-Eleven. Some person at 7-Eleven goes, "Oh my God, I just saw that guy on America's Most Wanted. Call the cops." And like they said, it happened more often than they'd like, and then they'd have to be like, no, I'm just the actor. But like, yeah. So, cover your, be careful. Don't want to.
I think, and that's another reason why I started this podcast, is that I wanted people to know who I am instead of I'm not. Well, luckily for me, I think my biggest role was as one of the killers was my biggest role. I think I was in like 45 of that 60 minutes, but oh geez. So it was Copycat Killers, CSI. So Copycat Killers is a show about copycat killers. There was Rambo, there was American Psycho.
Gotcha.
But the CSI episode was about these two brothers that were obsessed with CSI and just studied CSI to figure out how to get away with killing their half brother. Some of these episodes, they're really stretching it, but but I guess they did copy CSI in such a way to use it as a way to get away with the murder, which
I'm sure you learned something with enough of that,
but they still got caught.
But they always get caught on CSI too, so they should have paid attention.
And what's funny is, it was a good role, great pay, a lot of on-screen time, but during production they said they had us ad-lib a lot of dialogue, because they said, "Oh, don't worry about it, because you guys are actually British. This takes place in Britain, in the UK somewhere." But then watching the episode, you could hear us talking the whole time, and my wife was playing my character's wife was playing it so white trashy and then in the show you could hear her talking like, my husband gonna kill your ass, and I'm like, I don't think they talk like that in England.
Is that Lower Brixton?
It's not Lower Brixton, it's freaking Baltimore white trash. And she killed the dial. I mean, she killed the role had it been for that. But
Balmer.
But they were like, just play it how you would.
Yeah,
we're not going to keep. But then they kept it in. But
again, because they weren't going to ADR the whole thing.
But that was probably one of the funnest times, the most fun times I've ever had on set. The funnest.
Yeah, I bet.
The funnest.
The funnest. Funnest is a word. Ish.
But like most 9 times out of 10, it's always like detective this, officer that, and I'm all about typecasting, but
typecasting works.
You get paid.
If it gets you roles, if it gets you money, don't complain.
Look at Ice-T. I mean, I don't think he's complaining about.
No,
he's this close to beating Belzer.
Yeah, exactly.
As much close.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Belzer. I mean, you will never ever look at this guy as anything other than a cop. And if anybody knew, he was like a stand-up comedian.
Yep.
He had that talk show where he got choked out by Hogan. Right.
I remember I liked that character because I loved Homicide.
Yeah.
When that came, nobody remembers that, but that character started on Homicide, which is great. And I was just looking it up the other day. You cannot stream it anymore. Like, I cannot find that on anywhere, even to purchase. It was such a great show. And then you look back and so many great guest stars, and then that, I guess, led to The Wire and all that stuff. We used to go wander around Baltimore and take pictures outside of the police precinct down there. But but that character was from there. And then,
and then he transferred.
Like, coming up.
Well, was it Dick Wolf? Because I don't know if Dick Wolf. See, the writer of The Wire wrote Homicide: Life on the Beat. I don't know if Dick Wolf produced Homicide.
I don't think he did. I think if he did, it would still be available. But there was a crossover episode where they had, there was a crossover episode with Law and Order, probably just Law and Order at that time. And it was like 2 or 3 night thing where there was a murder in Baltimore. Then they went up to go, and he went up to New York. And so the team from Homicide went up to New York or something like that. I want to say Robin Williams was in this like episode 2.
That was the one?
I think so.
Because that's the one episode I remember was Robin Williams' guest appearance on Homicide, which really stood out for me.
Yeah.
Because he was plotting revenge against the guy, and the detective set him down, I think, on a swing set. And he goes, you really want to do this? And I think the detective handed him his gun.
Yeah.
It's like, hold that for a second. And the second he held that gun, he goes, I don't like this.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, incredible episode. But I mean, the openness for like somebody like Dick Wolf to like contact the producer of Homicide and be like, can I transfer this guy to my police department? And keep that character. And Belzer was so open for it. Belzer not only did Homicide, Law and Order SVU. I'm pretty sure that role was on all the different Law and Order spins.
He never has to worry about money ever again.
Again. But not only that, Belzer was on Detective Munch, I should say, was on X-Files, working a case with Fox and Mulder. And Munch,
which is a different network, like
a different network. And Detective Munch went to Springfield and interviewed the Simpsons.
So there's basically a Detective Munch cinematic universe that is just totally untapped. Like they've scratched the surface on it. And that should be the last chapter in Belzer's life, is just doing 10 to 15 years of him popping into everything. I'd watch that.
Yeah. And you know, I didn't watch his retirement episode, but when Munch retired, apparently it was a huge deal. Like they made a big 3-parter.
I think I did watch it, actually, if I remember correctly.
I know it was a big deal, and I think there was a moment where like Munch passed the torch to Ice-T's character. I can't think of Ice-T's character, but he kind of passed that torch to him.
It's Ice-T.
And to the lady, because she's been on that show from beginning to end.
Yeah.
She was in The Perfect Weapon. Do you remember the movie The Perfect Weapon with Speakman, the martial arts? He was super fast. She was the little girl grown up that he went to karate school world. Yep. He as kids, you know, the boy and the girl went to karate school together. I think she was adopted by the sensei of the school. And then, you know, he comes back to the neighborhood to avenge his sensei's death. And she's grown up super foxy, man.
I haven't thought about Jeff Speakman in years.
the perfect weapon. Like one of the greatest one-hit wonder movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I think he was one of those Seagals that was kind of like difficult to deal with. He was a master martial artist, and
I think they're all a little difficult. Like Seagal, I've heard some crazy stuff about Van Damme as well. You know, they're all. I think there's something about a guy who's just going to go that hard on everything, but then I guess they need to control everything also for their own safety. But you look what happens when they don't. But yeah, that's fucking Jeff Speakman.
But like, it's, you know, some actors are kind of honest about it. Like, listen, this is just the role I fell in. I'm kind of playing myself essentially. Ice-T is playing Ice-T. Ice-T's playing the same cop he played in New Jack City.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure Ice-T's, you know, who played a phenomenal cop, and I'm sure they take real life experiences from it, was Tupac in Gang Related.
I've never seen that one, but Tupac was like, he was a great actor.
He was a phenomenal.
He was
actor.
Great. And Gridlocked with Tim Roth, fantastic across the board, just fantastic. Like, and he's great in it. And sometimes you have a musician and you're like, I got like, but
he's kind of playing himself. But he wasn't playing. He wasn't playing a gangster rapper. He was like a hipster.
Like a jazz musician, heroin addict, just
jazz hipster, beatnik in the 90s. You know, a hipster jazz heroin addict, like that had like this bizarre relationship with another man and a woman. Yeah, and like if you watch that, there's like these underlying things that they didn't exactly show, but him and Tim Roth were very, 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 very close.
It was great. It was.
they were in this relationship where they shared a woman, and it was
Yeah.
it was a fantastic film for me. But my dad was a 20-year retired cop, DC cop,
Really?
and he hated Tupac, of course, all the music
Yeah.
and all the, you know, the anti cop stuff. So my dad wasn't the biggest fan of Tupac until he saw Gang Related. He was like, holy shit,
Really?
this dude is good. This dude's a good freaking actor. I've seen that detective on the stand testifying again. Like, there was a scene where Tupac, being a corrupt cop and a detective, was testifying in the movie Gang Related, testifying against this guy that they had arrested.
Yeah.
And the way he pulled that scene off, my dad was like, I've seen that shit 80 times. That guy nailed it. Tupac freaking nailed it. This guy is a good freaking actor. I'm not a huge fan of his music.
Yeah.
This dude can act.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just turned around for like Ice-T as well. You know, like, who knows what kind of shit he's gotten into in his life when he was a rapper, before he was a rapper, but he nailed that cop role in New Jack and just went with it. And SVU. Yeah.
How long can you do the gangster rap thing? You know, like Ice Cube does family comedies.
Family comedies, man.
See that, and you're like doing a movie where you're taking your kids to college, and you used to be screaming "fuck the police." It's like, you know, it's like that is an impressive career arc. You know,
and it just shows maturity. It shows you spoke that, you did that, you made that stance, and people answered, people responded.
Yeah, and
so you keep doing the music, and I think Cube still does tracks.
I think so,
for his music, but it might be cleaner if it's a family comedy. It might be dirtier, you know, like for XXX State of the Union, XXX, you know, those XXX movies. Yeah. Or he did a track on Ghost of Mars, I think.
That's right.
But, you know, if it's a family comedy, he'll do a clean track on the soundtrack, maybe a couple of them. But
yeah,
you know, it's just, we all have to grow up.
Yeah,
and so shit, I think they were teenagers when they formed NWA, if not in their early 20s.
Yeah, no, they were young.
They were super young. They banded together. They were pissed off about this, that, and the other thing, and they made that clear. And then they took that money and they ran with it. And now it's like, well, shit, I'm like a millionaire, so I can't, you know, and so that's where, hey, shit, that's where like money and how do I keep this clean and PC? Money and ladies, cars and ladies. That's and P. Diddy was honest about it. He was like, I already have money, cars and ladies. So I'm just gonna rap about that. And it's like other rappers were like, well, I have that now, so rap about that.
I'll make the transition. Get out of crime.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we've been chatting. I mean, you kind of touched upon like the effect the quarantine has had on you, but you're back on set.
Not yet. I mean, I've been pitching a couple shows, auditioning. We'll see what happens with that.
That's awesome,
man. That's more of just like, if it happens, it's great. Pitching. I do projects just out of my home, like, because I still do motion graphics. It's sort of whatever I can do at this point, but very, very close, I think, to hopping back on set for things. You can sort of smell the return coming, hopefully, and things are opening up more here. And just in terms of general business, you know, Hollywood still looks like a bomb went off. But like but just keeping myself busy with literally any and everything that I can, you know, is really where I'm at now. But I can sense it coming back to life, which is good. So with any luck, I'll be out there in a month or two. Yeah.
Like I said, you know, I have to keep that stipulation and because I got the 6-month-old, and he can't wear a mask until I think he's 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's there's no good answers and there's no easy solutions, you know, and I keep telling people that, like, there's no, there's no easy way out of this, unfortunately. I think sacrifices will have to be made. Hard things will have to be made. Some people have been doing the hard thing for a very long time. Other people haven't. And you see what one leads to and what the other doesn't. And I think once everybody just sort of says, hey man, it's not a political thing if you don't need it to be. It's as political as a hurricane, much, but they do that. But like, we just everybody kind of do the right thing. And then the sooner we do that, the sooner we're through this. And and everybody can work. And
And the biggest problem is people are trying to make science political, and it's not.
It's not.
Rain is water. The Republicans and the Democrats, you're not going to tell me rain is not H2O.
It's water. And
so wear a mask. I mean, because I mean, I've made it known that I'm a registered Democrat anyway, but the Republican Party nearly wiped itself out.
It's
being stubborn and stupid.
It's shocking and unfortunate. And I talk to my friends and I say, it's the weirdest thing is much like the racism thing the other day. Like weirdly, COVID was a gimme. COVID was the kind of 9/11 type thing that if they would have just sort of done the right thing and wrote it out and said, hey man, we did the hard thing. We all shut down for a little while. We wore our masks, which is a low bar to clear wearing a mask, like we wore our masks and yes, some people died and that's very unfortunate, but you know what? We're through this and we're all doing the right thing. Even people like you and I would have gone and said to Trump, you know what? Hey, thank you. Thank you for at least doing the right thing. Couldn't even do that. It was a gift, a weird gift that he was handed, and that he just was like, nah, fuck it.
And he squandered. He squandered that. He fucked that up. But people don't realize the kind of medical care the president of the United States gets, as opposed to some 65-year-old middle to low class, good old boy, who's a Trump supporter, who can, who's on Medicare or Medicaid. You're not getting Trump's medical care. You're not getting that. They're pumping him. I mean, shit. The shit he's already. Every president.
Oh, I know.
Every president, Democratic or Republican, is probably getting pumped full of these crazy vitamin cocktails. Maybe some, low grade steroid.
He's getting high grade steroids, which they admitted to. Now. I mean,
but shit, I mean, like JFK, it's known that JFK was on painkillers, some sort of methamphetamine that, would give him a boost so he could work.
Yeah.
To be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Take a look at how quickly Barack aged in 8 years.
Yeah.
How quickly George W. aged in 8 years. They aged 20, 30 years.
Yep.
George W., I think, when he was campaigning against Al Gore in 2000, had brown hair.
Yeah.
He had brown hair. And in 8 years, he was gaunt. He was gaunt. And it was like his dad lost the rest of his hair in and that was just 4.
Yeah.
And George Sr. just completely bald, gaunt, aged 10 years and 4 years.
Yeah.
W and Obama aged 20 years and 8 years. And I had a previous guest on, Brant Pinvidic. We were talking about just to who wants to be president? Like the people that want. Look at me, I'm the president.
I think it should be like a random appointment. I think
presidential lottery.
Basically, where every 2 years, let's say, you got your core, you want to call them a deep state or whatever, you got your core people who work in the government, sure. But then like president, vice president, cabinet, all that stuff is a lottery. And so could you, like, if you want that job, you do whatever you can to make it like work for you. If you don't want that job, you do whatever you can during those 2 years to not screw it up. Could you imagine if you were like, oh, fuck, I'm going to be president. Okay. All right. I better listen to the people who know what they're doing or I'm going to get killed, and I think that would be, and that would take it would take so much politics out of it. Like, and you'd still have Congress and the branches and all that stuff. But I think if every 2 years you had somebody who was scared out of their wits thinking they're going to screw it up versus, hey, I got this, both sides, like Biden, whatever, I'm going to vote for him.
I'm getting rid of this. He's like, I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of this.
I want this. I'm going to do this. And you guys are going to be okay because I'll look after you. You guys, I'm going to tell you, like they all do that, but like if you had like some knucklehead mechanic out of Wyoming.
You had some 65-year-old lady
exactly
who's a seamstress or a cocktail waitress or something. And a 55-year-old, we've seen them, the 55-year-old cocktail waitresses at casinos.
Yeah.
President of the United States.
1 year it's some nutty Karen, who actually is now the manager. And then 2 years later, it's like a 35-year-old like black father of four, you know what I mean? And like just like that, this would go like this constantly, and by nature they would have to like balance a little bit,
Listen,
terrified of the power, not welcoming it.
Yep,
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, listen, we all know that the presidential seat is more of just a leadership position, mostly appearance.
Yeah.
In the 8 years Obama, and I've said this before, the 8 years of Obama was in, I think he got two and a half, maybe three things approved.
Yeah.
And that was through just discussion and ideas and discussion, but it has to be passed by everybody else. George W., the same thing. I think George W. got Patriot Act, and I think the Department of Homeland Security that started.
I mean, look at it this way. How often do you put new tires on your car? Once in a while. The main job is not steering it into a car full of children. Like, and that's what the president's supposed to do. Like keep the car on the road. When you need to get the gas, get the new thing. Okay. We'll get some rims. Okay, great. We'll get some, but the main job is not crashing into a bridge, like, and that's what we need. Like
keep the gears moving, maybe grease them a little bit.
Exactly.
Maybe switch out one gear.
Yeah. And that's fine. And that, it's hard. It's a hard job and it's hard to get stuff done. And, but like, yeah, as long as you're not actively flushing the country down the toilet, you're doing okay.
So what's next on the agenda? And I know, and again, you touched upon it. You got a couple of projects in prep. But what's next on the agenda? What's the next set of goals?
My biggest set of goals. One, I have this story about a DC serial killer that I knew growing up, which I don't want to go too into, but like he was older than me. That I'm trying to do scripted and unscripted series.
Now let me clarify. You knew him personally, or
I knew him personally? Yeah, he went to my church.
Holy
and killed somebody at my church.
Okay.
And so I didn't know him well, but he did invite me to his truck one day. So I've got that. I'm also beginning to go into the process of like we're saying, getting things made. I've got a ton of ideas, ton of scripts that I'm beginning to get in the process of like getting the right literary agent and all that stuff. Like so much of everything I've done, whether it's commercials or TV, it's all been on my own accord, which is great. And I'm proud of myself. But at the same time, I'd like somebody else to do it a little bit, and see if I can't get some help and the people who know the right people and all that. So my goal right now, aside from the day-to-day projects that keep the lights on, is really like pushing to get my own ideas and scripts and concepts made, and then working with other people and directing more and more. I have other people whose scripts I'm reading and stuff, but that's really what it is. This whole process, this whole time has made me realize like what I really, 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 really want to do. And, and that like how you can get along without having to spend a lot of money. So, not going out all the time, not going to restaurants and saying, okay, yeah, I'm just going to stay at home and write. Yeah.
Saving money or making money? Well, I've been making money, and now that we're doing this, we're saving money. So we're not spending it. So we still have it.
And we're making more. So it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then making some on top of that is excellent as well. But yeah, like I've been taking a look at the bank account, and the wife is astounded. She goes, "Wait a minute, we have so much more. What are you working? I mean, thank God you're working." I'm like, I don't think we're spending.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's not. There's nothing going out, like, which is kind of a good thing. So yeah.
Yeah. And then we've also been rebudgeting, and like, well, then again, we got a 6-month-old, so we have been spending, but just,
Yeah, that's a different pile.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Paul, I can't thank you enough for jumping on.
Thank you. This has been a blast.
Is there any last bit of, well, before I go there, the new normal, everyone's talking about this new normal, and we kind of touched upon that, voiceovers, animation. What's your view of the new normal?
Smaller, more careful, more intimate, both in terms of the creative and in terms of how things are made. Really, I think is what it is. I think everybody just getting down to what they feel is safe, not feel, but what they know is safe and right, and how to accomplish that from a creative standpoint really is what I think it is. Yeah.
For me, I like 90, I think like 91 to 99 was just this resurgence of indie films.
Yeah.
Like they rewrote the indie film, Tarantino with Reservoir Dogs, a heist movie without showing the heist.
Yeah. And I think again, and that was a response to the excess of the 80s. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we've had the excess of the 2000s, and then the the teens. And I think and I do think that those films were actually, a lot of them were very well made. I still think like and I think indie got a little too precious as well. So I think the people with the good ideas who would normally go up here are going to bring it like more personal and bring it here. And I'm excited to see what it is, like something that isn't just a quirky romantic dramedy, like, which is what a lot of indies seem to be. I think there's a chance that we're going to get, although those brains that are making huge Avengers films are going to say, what sort of science fiction story can we tell? What sort of interesting horror story can we tell? What comedy, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because, and I don't knock Marvel. I love Marvel and I love DC, but I think Marvel really, way before the COVID, you got to take a look at Daredevil, especially Punisher and Luke Cage. Jessica, even more so, Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
Those 4 shows, their Netflix shows were just so indie oriented. Character, and especially taking a look at, Daredevil, his superpowers are just heightened senses. But I know Luke Cage is bulletproof. I know Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, they're super powered. They're super strength and bulletproof. But at the same time, they were able to pull off very in-depth, very dark. I mean, Punisher is human.
I did not think they were going to be able to, because I like that character for what it is in the comics, and obviously it's got like a whole lot of weight attached. I thought they pulled that character off in a way I did not think was possible to make me care for him. Yeah. Can I go to the bathroom real quick?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Can you pause? I think a massive coffee. Hold on 1 second.
No problem. All right, so
Punisher, you were saying, but
Punisher, yeah, but it's his only superpower is his complete rage and hatred for criminals.
Yeah,
which is almost Hulk-like, because there was an episode, because the Punisher, like the second half of Daredevil season 2 was like a micro Punisher season.
Yeah,
but he was getting his ass kicked in that jail, and he just kept moving forward. And Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, is like juiced up too. He's like really, really strong and just bashing him up.
Vincent D'Onofrio was phenomenal.
And if you like Vincent D'Onofrio, Ratched, about Nurse Ratched on Netflix.
Is he in that?
He's in that.
Oh, all right.
He's the governor of California, and he was astounding. He was by far the best performance, in my opinion, one of the best performances, if not the best performance. Just
he is unsung in turn. Like, you look at him from Full Metal Jacket to Men in Black to like Kingpin to this, to whatever, not CSI, Law and Order. I mean, like, I've heard maybe he's a little difficult to work with. I don't know, but like he is able to completely inhabit other roles, which is just astounding. Astounding. I don't feel he's gotten his full due, but
agreed.
He's I love Vincent D'Onofrio. And I love him. I love him in Men in Black. I think he has little throwaway lines that just make that character, you know. It's just like, I don't, yeah.
He was the alien that was like rotting his body out, and he was like,
yeah, he's like,
yeah.
oh, he's kind of like this, and he's
Come
all
on,
just real sardonic, you know.
There's nothing to see here. I'm totally fine. And
yeah,
yeah. He's because he was so quirky. I mean, he was doing like I see a lot of actors do when they get a role on TV. They box themselves into this cookie cutter TV performance. You know, James Caviezel.
Oh, Jim Caviezel. Yeah,
Jim Caviezel was on
Person of Interest.
Person of Interest.
Yeah,
and by the time I got to season 2, he just whispered the whole show. Whispered or yelled. You know,
he was like a stockbroker Punisher on that.
Yeah,
like I really like that show. And I still need to. Sorry, my wife. I still need to finish it. I had like the last series, but I like that show went very kind of hard sci-fi in a weird way, you know. But like he definitely had a thing he was doing. But
he is an amazing actor, you know.
He's great.
And he does like Frequency. I mean, Passion of the Christ. He really threw himself into like a whole new. He really like did his best to metamorphosize into Christ. But
that's one of those movies that people are like, you like? I'm like, I do. I saw it once and I thought it was phenomenal. Like, how many times do you need to watch that movie? But yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about the politics of religion, but it's an impressive movie.
It really was an impressive movie.
Yeah.
But going back to, you know, like Marvel has done these micro budgeted, and it might have been a series. Or, you know, like take a look at Blade. You know, there's a lot of special effects in the first Blade.
Yeah.
But Blade was still a lot of practical, a lot of, you know, editing and cinematography and you know, practical action, practical effects, you know, some CGI, some of it was, you know, didn't date well, but
no.
You know,
it didn't date well. Like the week it came out, I do love that movie, but the whole like blood monster at the end,
blood monster
which they talked about was, I think, if I remember correctly, was sort of a last minute like change. You know,
last minute change compared to what they were originally going to do, I think.
But if you look at what they have coming up, I'm sure there's very smart people who are getting paid a lot more than us who are sitting in rooms right now figuring out this strategy. I mean, I know they've got a slate of films that just keep getting pushed back, but like I know they have the WandaVision on Disney Plus it's coming out, which is going to be weird, I'm sure, but like I know they have Ms. Marvel, so I'm sure they're looking at the properties that they have and saying, okay, we know we need to get the Fantastic Four in here. We know we're going to get the X-Men in here. How do we do that where we don't need to spend $300 million and a year and a half or 2 years prepping something that may never see a movie theater? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm sure that they are looking at Black Widow and going, oh my God, you know, like what, like we can't let this happen again. And so I think the answer will be, you know, is the Fantastic Four a TV series on Disney Plus? You know what I mean? Does it all shift there? Why? They're already were doing great TV stuff. Put out your tentpole movies instead of doing 3 or 4 movies a year. Put out your Avengers film every 1 or 2 years, and everything else is a TV series. And you have your big moments and all that. Why not? You know, people will be at home, you know. So yeah. But again, who knows? I'm sure they're listening right now. You know, hire us.
Well, exactly. Well, aside from, you know, hire us, what's one last bit of advice? One, you know, maybe a few points, a couple of points to make, or one last bit of advice for our viewers.
I mean, the one thing that served me very well through this and just in general is don't do one thing. You know, my wife always says, people say, what do you do? I say, hey, I'm a director, you know, and I'm a director. I know, but like, I think about the last couple of things I've done, and it may have been an editorial job. It may have been an illustration, you know, but I think the days of believing that you can survive and advance in this industry by doing just one thing, I think are over. And there's most people know that. And I think many of the people that you meet and that you work in are multi-talented and able to slip into different roles. But I also know a lot of younger up and coming people who are like, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a shooter, you know, and really have a diverse set of talents to pull from, because that's literally saved me in this situation right now with COVID. And then even just before, you know, there's a lot of time in between projects, and that money comes and it goes. So I think that, and I think also it gives you a broader sort of creative mindset to pull from. I meet people who are very singular in what they know, and that's good as long as you luck into doing that one thing. Yeah. And then the other is work. Yeah. Like people always ask me, and I know you even mentioned the other day, like, you know, people say, oh, what are you watching? I watch when I can, but between having a family, I work, fill a lot of the moments between family, almost all, even if I'm not working, with work, and sort of playing around, learning things, trying new things, writing. Writing is the one thing, just I have to sit and just force myself to do it, and I enjoy doing it, and you have to get in the mindset. But it's like one of those things where if I'm like, okay, like yesterday I bought that new Star Wars game and played it with my son, but I was like, I really should be doing work right now. But it's good that we were doing that, but it's but yeah, just really work on everything that you can creatively, and be open to any and everything, because you never know where that next door will open. And you got, like, that whole good luck is just preparation and opportunity, you know what I mean? And so the more you're prepared, the better luck it is. Because I've known people who it came and they were like, I don't know, you know, and I've known other people who really stepped up to the plate because they've just been preparing, you know.
Hey, listen, my response to that is like, you know, I've never done it, but there's nothing I can't learn.
Yeah.
And I'll try.
I mean, if people can look at my site or whatever, it's like, I have nothing too exciting to show right now, but like from Photoshop, any Adobe software, I taught myself, you know, from Photoshop to, I suck at Illustrator, but like, cause I can hand draw, but like, from Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere. After Effects is the one, like, people look at the stuff I do and they're like, how do you, I was like, I learned, I taught myself. I sat down and I just taught myself. And you can teach yourself with your own projects. It's more fun to teach yourself when people need something, because then you're like, oh crap, I really need to learn this right now. Yeah. Don't tell them you're doing that, but there's trial by fire, education by fire is really valuable.
I forget what movie this comes from, and it's such a great quote, but somebody said, either shit your pants or jump in and swim.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what movie that's from now. It's a fantastic quote. I think it was a Western, or it was one of those, like, World War II movies.
Yeah.
One of those Dirty Dozen type films.
Yeah.
I'm so, I don't know. It might have been a Tarantino movie. I can't remember, but yeah. Oh, it was Tarantino. It was Reservoir Dogs.
It was a Reservoir. Okay.
Yeah. Big Joe said, like, I think freaking Harvey Keitel was talking to Big Joe. Mr. White was talking to Big Joe about a crime, a crime spree. No, that's not what it was. Okay. You remember the Commode story?
Yeah.
One of the greatest directed, written, and edited scenes in the history of cinema was the Commode story from Reservoir Dogs. And if anybody's watching this podcast, you got to watch Reservoir Dogs, and you have to pay attention to the Commode story. By far, that inspired that right there was like, I got to be a filmmaker. That's storytelling right there, because it was like at the end of the Commode story, he was in the Commode telling the story. It was phenomenal. But then he finished his Commode story, and he's in that strip bar with Big Joe and Nice Guy Eddie, and Big Joe says, "Well, that's where you just either shit your pants or jump in and swim."
Yeah.
But that stuck with me. It's like, my years in the military, and 15 years doing production, and having just delving into acting. So it's just like, you either shit your pants or you just jump in and swim. If someone says, "Hey, can you edit this?"
Yeah.
And like, I've never edited a corporate thing, but hell, I'll try, and I'll just I'll just YouTube other things like it.
Well, the wealth of information that's out there is, there's no excuse for not learning how to do something, and you don't need a Lynda account. You can, but like you can find the answer for anything. My brother works and fixes things, and he's like, he said he had to go fix a conveyor belt on a grocery store thing. And I was like, how do you know that? He's like, YouTube. He's like, I look it up on YouTube, and he knows. And so learning, you can learn. And again, shit your pants and jump in. Education by fire. When the corporate, like big money corporate thing says, "Can you do this?" you say yes, and it's going to be a really long week, and just know that, in late nights. But then once you've done that, you now know how to do that, and that's invaluable. Yeah.
Well, and thinking about costs, I subscribe to Envato Elements, and they have templates. Yeah. I downloaded this out. I don't know After Effects, and I wouldn't, and I don't, and I'm not good enough with After Effects to just start from scratch with the first node. But I downloaded this template for this Halloween thing, and I was able to replace graphics with my own graphics, and change speeds, and change fonts, and make things different, and change colors. It didn't look anything like the template. It looked like my own thing, and it looked great. But I knew I could do that.
Yeah.
And then as I'm playing with that, I'm learning more with maybe a little cheat sheet. Because sometimes, just picking up that book and reading from beginning to end doesn't work for people. But reading those cliff notes and then going from there sometimes helps. If someone just gives you the cliff notes and the short story version of it, you can learn from that too, and getting help. And like you said, there's such a wealth of knowledge out there that's like, now that I'm experimenting with Unreal, I'm trying to find a couple of packs. Yeah. I'm trying to download and start with a couple of pre-made packs that I can then kind of repaint and re-edit and rebuild the architecture within that thing. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge out there, and it's like you said, trial by fire, just jump in. But any socials, links, plugs you want to put out there?
I mean, I don't. We didn't even get it. I don't know if you found me like through me or through.
Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Since April, I've been spamming the shit out of LinkedIn.
Yeah, well, it's work. No, I online I do some work. I not as much anymore, but I go by a different name, Garrison Dean, which is like. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Garrison Dean. I post stuff occasionally. I used to do these movie trailers, fake movie trailers. Some of them were not fake movie trailers, but the studios don't want me to tell you which ones are which. But like, where I just kind of did my own thing. So I would do content for a couple blogs and stuff. But so like, if you're looking for me on Facebook or Instagram, it's Garrison Dean, which is a nom de plume, nom de web, whatever. But yeah, I mean, look up paulghogan.com. That's my director's site. Reach out to me. I wish I had more to plug right now. I can go check out if you're looking. I think tomorrow I only did the logo for it, and DC people will like it because it's an unsubtle homage to Bad Brains. Awesome. Tim Robbins is releasing a sort of radio play, oral cinema, he calls it, called Bobo Supreme, which is, if you ever watched Bob Roberts, like his movie way back when, it's in that vein. So it's a podcast that comes out, but I did the logo. That was a quick job that a friend of mine was like, can you do this? I was like, sure. And it's, I like it. So if you want to see something that is not me directing and just fooling around with Photoshop and stuff. But yeah, other than that, come check out my stuff and follow me. And I'm trying to keep things updated as much as I can, and as soon as I have something ironclad to show, it'll be there.
Absolutely. Well, you heard it here first. Paul Hogan, can't thank you enough. Check out his links. All his links in the description below. So check out his work. A quick plug on my end. My buddy Landon's Mafia. He has sarcoma NOS, which is not other specified. So sarcoma, it's a form of leukemia, and the links in the description to go to his GoFundMe and buy shirts. Proceeds go to him, or you can Venmo. There's a Venmo link as well if you want to donate to Landon's Mafia. You can get a shirt. I think he's in his I think he's in his second or third relapse right now, but the kid's a trooper. He's been you know, he got better, then he got worse, then he got better. So we're fighting for Landon. Great kid. He's my wife's best friend's nephew, Landon August Koya. So we're fighting for Landon, and definitely click those links. Paul Hogan, check out his stuff. Again, Paul, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And
thank you. It's been a blast.
It was a great chat. A lot of, and glad that you're from Maryland. That's fantastic. I mean, it's like I said, I just spam the shit out of LinkedIn. So I've been getting folks from, you know, Mexico and India and Britain.
That's amazing. That's great.
And I got a guy from California, but originally from Silver Springs, so right down the street from me.
I was looking through you. I'm like, we must know somebody. It must have been like Adam or Ryan or somebody that, you know, like, and Shane. I don't know, but yeah, I know it's you just found me. So good for you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I definitely hope to collaborate somehow, some way when the floodgates open. But until then, you know, keep up the great work. And to the viewers out there, I certainly hope I've earned the privilege of your time and viewership. I know my guest has. And until next time, you know what to do.
Thank you.